I have had to dig in, and I have had to call on things I didn't know that I was going to have to. And but I've also felt really lucky that I could actually guide this process. Lucky enough that I could make it. I do feel lucky.
At 70, Kevin Costner is finally breaking his silence about Rob Reiner, and people are paying attention. Born Kevin Michael Costner on January 18, 1955 in Linwood, California, his story didn't start with red carpets or flashy fame. He came up the hard way, raised in a working-class household where nothing was handed out for free and every win had to be earned. Costner's father, William Costner, put in long hours as an electrician before climbing up to an executive role at Southern California Edison, while his mother, Sharon Ray, held things down at home and quietly pushed Kevin toward music and performing. Moving around California again and again forced him to adapt fast, stay grounded, and learn how to survive change, traits that later showed up in both his movie roles and his real-life grind. He went on to attend California State University, Fullerton, earning a degree in marketing and finance because back then, acting felt more like a wild fantasy than a real plan. Hollywood wasn't calling yet, and stability mattered. But everything shifted after a random encounter with actor Richard Burton on a flight back from England when Burton encouraged him to chase acting, planting a seed Kevin couldn't shake. Fueled by pure determination, Costner jumped into acting classes, took odd jobs to stay afloat, and hit audition after audition, eating rejection like it was part of the diet. His early Hollywood days were rough, filled with uncertainty and setbacks, including the gut punch of having his scenes cut from his first big movie, The Big Chill, in 1983, a reminder that the industry doesn't play fair. Instead of breaking him down, those early setbacks only hardened Kevin Costner's drive and sharpened his focus. He didn't fold, he leveled up. By the mid-1980s, his breakthrough finally hit with roles that let his calm confidence and natural screen presence shine without trying too hard. Movies like Silverado in 1985 and No Way Out in 1987 put his quiet strength on full display, proving he could deliver power, honesty, and emotional weight without all the flashy noise. Things really took off fast when The Untouchables dropped in 1987. Costner stepped into the role of lawman Elliot Ness with steady intensity and strong moral backbone, no gimmicks needed. Audiences locked in because he played heroes who stood on principle, not ego, at a time when Hollywood was busy pushing loud, over-the-top characters. By the late 80s and early 1990s, Costner wasn't just famous, he was everywhere. With Bull Durham in 1988 and Field of Dreams in 1989, he became the face of America's emotional love affair with baseball. He played imperfect but real men chasing purpose, redemption, and connection, and people felt that deep. Field of Dreams especially hit different. Its themes of faith, forgiveness, and believing in something bigger crossed generations, turning the film into a cultural landmark. Costner's performance became legendary in sports cinema, proving he could take simple stories and make them hit straight to the heart. And behind the scenes, his goals were already growing way beyond just acting. In 1990, Kevin Costner stepped into a whole new lane, making his directorial debut with Dances with Wolves, a massive western that flipped the script on how Native American stories were shown on screen. The film didn't play it safe, and that gamble paid off big time, sweeping both critics and the box office and pulling in 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Costner himself. But this wasn't just another trophy moment. Dances with Wolves was a loud artistic statement, showing Costner's deep respect for history, culture, and storytelling on an epic scale. It locked him in as more than just a leading man, proving he had real vision, confidence, and the guts to take risks behind the camera too. Throughout the 1990s, Costner stayed in motion, never settling into one box. Movies like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves in 1991, JFK in 1991, The Bodyguard in 1992, and Wyatt Earp in 1994 showed his range, jumping from romance to political drama to full-blown historical epics. The Bodyguard especially went nuclear worldwide. Teaming up with Whitney Houston, Costner became part of one of the most iconic romantic thrillers of the decade, a movie that dominated pop culture and music charts at the same time. Even when some projects landed with mixed reactions, Costner stayed locked in to bold storytelling, picking roles based on passion, not just box office math. As the late 1990s and early 2000s rolled in, shifting trends and a few high-profile misses tested his spot in Hollywood. But one thing stayed clear: Kevin Costner never vanished, he just kept moving. Instead of fading out, Kevin Costner slowly rebuilt his momentum with smart, grounded performances that reminded everyone why he mattered. In 13 Days in 2000, his controlled, no-nonsense take on political leadership earned him serious respect again. Then came Open Range in 2003, a return to the Western genre that felt raw, personal, and right in his wheelhouse, proving that his bond with that world never faded. In recent years, Costner hit a major comeback that pulled in an entirely new audience while locking in his legacy at the same time. His role as John Dutton on the hit series Yellowstone introduced him to a younger generation and turned into one of the most defining characters on modern television. As the head of the Dutton family, Costner delivered real weight, moral tension, and emotional depth, showing that his presence on screen still commands attention without forcing it. The series doubled down on his lasting appeal and his rare ability to anchor big, complex stories with authenticity and authority. Outside of acting and directing, Costner also tapped into music, leading the band Kevin Costner and Modern West. Through his songs, he shows a more reflective side, digging into themes of love, loss, and wide-open American landscapes in a way that feels personal and honest. His commitment to environmental causes, historical preservation, and humanitarian work mirrors the values he's often known for on screen: respect for the land, personal integrity, and responsibility. Behind the scenes, Kevin Costner's personal life has moved alongside his fame, filled with love, family, heartbreak, and constant reinvention. His first major romance began back in 1975 when he was still a college student chasing dreams, falling for fellow student Cindy Silva. The relationship was built on youth, shared dreams, and straight-up perseverance during a time when success was nowhere in sight. After 3 years of dating, Kevin Costner and Cindy Silva got married, stepping into a 16-year marriage that ran side by side with his slow but steady climb in Hollywood. As his career started heating up, the couple built a family together, welcoming 2 daughters in 1984 and 86, followed by a son in 1988. During these years, Costner was juggling it all, going from a struggling actor to a full-blown leading man, while also trying to show up as a husband and father in the middle of non-stop pressure. But fame doesn't come free. The grind of celebrity life, constant travel, and long, exhausting film shoots started to wear things down. By 1994, after years of strain behind closed doors, the marriage officially ended in divorce. The split didn't stay quiet for long. It made headlines everywhere and came wrapped in controversy, with reports and allegations claiming Costner had an affair while filming Waterworld, putting his personal life under a harsh spotlight. The divorce turned into one of the most expensive Hollywood breakups of its time. Silva received a settlement of $80 million, a figure that would equal around $153 million in 2024, showing just how massive the emotional and financial fallout really was. After the divorce, Costner entered a transitional phase filled with brief but high-profile relationships. He was later linked with Bridget Rooney, who would go on to marry billionaire Bill Koch. From that relationship, Costner welcomed another son in 1996, expanding his family beyond his first marriage and marking a new chapter in his personal life. Around that same period, Kevin Costner was also romantically linked with political activist Brigitte Cunningham, signaling a quieter, more low-key phase in his personal life. Not every chapter played out in the spotlight, and this stretch reflected his move toward more privacy and calm. In 1996, his love life crossed into the high fashion world when he lived with internationally known supermodel Elle Macpherson. That relationship pulled heavy media attention, putting Costner back in the tabloids at full value. Real stability didn't settle in until the early 2000s when Costner met Christine Baumgartner, a model and handbag designer who was notably younger than him. After 4 years of dating, they tied the knot on September 25, 2004, in a scenic ceremony at Costner's ranch in Aspen, Colorado, a place that perfectly matched his deep connection to the American West and symbolized a fresh start.
I see them as an American story that you can invest in, that you can understand that each one gets harder, as opposed to reaching the end of the movie and suddenly, oh, things got easier. They don't. In the West, it got harder. And
Together, they built a family, welcoming 3 children, 2 sons born in 2007 and 2009, followed by a daughter in 2010. For nearly 20 years, their marriage seemed to give Costner balance, acting as a safe zone from the non-stop chaos of Hollywood life. But even that long chapter came to an end. In May 2023, Baumgartner filed for divorce, closing out their 18-year marriage and dragging Costner back into intense public scrutiny, much like earlier moments in his life. By February 20th, 2024, the divorce was finalized, officially ending another major era. Through love, loss, and fresh beginnings, Kevin Costner's relationships have mirrored his career. Massive in scale, deeply emotional, and shaped by the pressure of living life under constant public watch. At 70 years old, Kevin Costner has reached a stage where looking back feels natural after more than 4 decades in Hollywood. He's not chasing headlines or tossing out polished sound bites anymore. From where he stands now, Costner speaks with calm confidence, shaped by real wins, hard losses, reinvention, and straight-up endurance. From that place of perspective, Costner has finally opened up about Rob Reiner, a filmmaker whose influence, professionalism, and integrity left a serious mark on him. He's clear about why he's speaking now, saying age and experience stripped away the noise and brought clarity. As Costner puts it, you get to a certain age and you stop worrying about saying the perfect thing. You start worrying about saying the honest thing. That mindset matters to him now. For Costner, honesty means giving credit where it's due and recognizing the people who shaped how he views storytelling and leadership. Rob Reiner, he explains, was one of those figures who didn't need to be loud to make an impact. His example spoke for itself. Looking back on Reiner's work, Costner doesn't hide his respect. Rob had this incredible ability to balance heart and intelligence, Costner says. He never talked down to the audience, and he never underestimated them either. Costner points out that Reiner's films were rooted in real emotional truth, but guided by discipline and structure. That mix, he says, is rare in the industry, and it's something he's carried with him ever since, even if most people never noticed it happening. A lot of directors have vision, Costner explains, but not everyone knows how to guide people toward that vision without crushing their spirit. And that's where Rob Reiner stood apart. Costner makes it clear that Reiner knew how to lead without ego, something rare in an industry that often runs on power trips and loud personalities. Costner points to Reiner's reputation for being locked in and fair on set, saying his steadiness set the tone. He came in prepared every single day, Costner recalls, and when a director shows up ready, everyone else feels safe. That kind of preparation, he says, sends a message that your work matters and you're not just another name on a call sheet. According to Costner, Reiner built a space where actors could actually take chances without worrying about being shut down or embarrassed. He listened, Costner says, keeping it simple, and adds that it might sound small, but it's everything. That willingness to listen created trust, and trust is rare currency in Hollywood. As he reflects deeper, Costner connects Reiner's style to a bigger truth about lasting careers. Careers don't last because of noise, he says. They last because of trust. Reiner earned that trust through consistency, respect, and basic decency. People always knew exactly who Rob was when he walked in the room. There were no games, no guessing. Costner explains. Looking back now at 70, he admits he understands Reiner more than he did when he was younger. When you're younger, you're focused on proving yourself, he says. Later on, you realize the people who impressed you most weren't the loud ones. From that realization, Costner starts connecting the dots between Reiner's influence and his own evolution as a leader on set. He admits that earlier in his career, he was more focused on control and outcome, trying to prove he belonged at the table rather than trusting the process. With time, he says, that mindset shifted, and lessons he absorbed from people like Reiner finally clicked. Costner explains that watching Reiner taught him that authority doesn't come from volume or intimidation. It comes from preparation, respect, and consistency. You don't have to dominate the room, Costner says. You just have to know what you're doing. That approach stuck with him, especially when he stepped behind the camera himself. He credits Reiner with helping him understand how tone on set shapes the final product. When people feel respected, they bring more truth to their work, and that truth shows up on screen. Costner says those environments don't happen by accident. They're built carefully, choice by choice, every single day. Looking back now, Costner sees Reiner as a quiet blueprint for longevity. Not just success, but staying power built on reputation and trust rather than hype. He admits that Hollywood never forgets how you treat people, even if it takes years for that truth to come back around. At this stage in his life, Costner isn't trying to rewrite history or chase approval. He's simply acknowledging the figures who shaped him when it mattered most. And for him, Rob Reiner remains one of those steady, defining influences. Costner also makes it clear that this reflection isn't about nostalgia or rewriting the past. It's about accountability and growth, about finally understanding why certain people left deeper marks than box office numbers ever could. He says when you strip Hollywood down to its core, what lasts are the lessons, not the headlines. He admits that in today's industry, that kind of leadership feels even rarer. Everything moves faster, louder, more reactive, and more image-driven. Costner points out that Reiner's way of working reminds him that slowing down and doing things right still matters, even when the pressure is high. There's a difference between being busy and being effective, Costner says, making it clear he learned that distinction the hard way. He adds that Reiner never confused chaos with creativity, and that discipline gave everyone room to breathe and actually perform. Costner also hints that his recent choices reflect those values more than ever. He's less interested in chasing trends and more focused on projects that feel solid, honest, and earned. That shift, he says, didn't happen overnight. It came from watching people who stayed true to themselves when it wasn't popular. At 70, Costner isn't trying to impress anyone anymore. He's speaking from a place of clarity, crediting Rob Reiner not as a headline grabber, but as a steady influence who showed him how to lead without losing your soul. And for Costner, that lesson might be the most valuable one of all. Costner closes this chapter of reflection by admitting that saying these things out loud feels overdue. For years, he carried the lessons quietly, applying them without naming the source, but time has a way of pushing honesty to the surface. He explains that Rob Reiner represents a kind of professionalism that doesn't scream for attention. It shows up in the work and how people are treated and in the trust built over years, not moments. Costner says that kind of respect can't be faked and can't be rushed. Looking back, Costner believes that Reiner's influence helped shape not just how he worked, but how he handled pressure, conflict, and success. Those lessons mattered most when things didn't go smoothly, when ego could have taken over but didn't. Costner also reflects on how legacy really forms. It's not built by one hit or one bad year, but by patterns of behavior that people remember long after the camera stopped rolling. In that sense, he sees Reiner's legacy as rock solid, built on consistency rather than hype. At this stage in his life, Costner isn't looking to make bold declarations or dramatic statements. He's simply recognizing the people who helped him become steadier, wiser, and more grounded. And in doing that, he makes one thing clear. Influence doesn't always come from the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it comes from the one who listens, leads quietly, and shows up every single day. As Costner looks ahead, he admits that this stage of life feels different in a good way. The pressure to prove himself is gone, replaced by a sharper instinct for what actually matters. He's choosing projects with intention now, not because they're loud, but because they feel honest and solid. He says that perspective only comes after you've been tested, after the wins, the public stumbles, the comebacks, and the long nights wondering what sticks and what fades. Costner doesn't shy away from that truth. He leans into it. That's why his words about Rob Reiner land harder now than they ever would have years ago. Back then, Costner was running forward at full speed. Now he's looking back and seeing the quiet hands that help steady the path. He makes it clear that gratitude hits different when you survive the full cycle of fame, when you've seen how fast applause fades and how long respect lasts. Reiner, in Costner's eyes, represents that lasting kind of respect. At 70, Costner isn't chasing relevance, he's defining it on his own terms. He believes longevity isn't about staying visible, it's about staying true to your values even when the spotlight shifts. And as he reflects on the people who shaped him, Costner leaves no doubt. The lessons that mattered most weren't shouted, they were demonstrated day after day by people like Rob Reiner, who led with calm, clarity, and quiet strength. In the end, Costner makes it clear that this reflection isn't about reopening old chapters, it's about setting the record straight in his own way. He's not chasing headlines or stirring drama, he's speaking from experience, and that carries real weight. He explains that Hollywood has a habit of rewarding noise in the moment while overlooking the people who actually keep the machine running with integrity. Rob Reiner, in his eyes, is the opposite of hype, a steady presence whose influence stretches far beyond any single film. Costner admits that when you're younger, it's easy to mistake confidence for volume and leadership for control. With age, that illusion falls apart. What lasts are the people who show up prepared, treat others with respect, and don't let ego drive the room. He says that's the standard he now holds himself to, whether he's acting, producing, or simply choosing where to invest his energy. Those values didn't come from nowhere. They were learned by watching people who lived them consistently. At this point in his life, Costner isn't interested in being remembered as the loudest or the flashiest. He wants to be remembered as someone who respected the work, respected the people, and stayed true to his principles. And as he finally puts words to Rob Reiner's impact, Costner makes one thing unmistakably clear. Real influence doesn't fade with time, it deepens, and that's the kind of legacy that actually lasts. Costner wraps these thoughts with a calm certainty that only time can give. He says there's freedom in no longer needing validation from rooms that once felt intimidating. The noise fades, the pressure loosens, and what's left is clarity about who you are and what you stand for. He explains at this stage he measures success differently. It's not about opening weekends or trending conversations. It's about whether the work holds up and whether the people around you feel respected. That mindset, he admits, didn't come easy. It was learned through years of watching, listening, and sometimes failing. Costner points out that Rob Reiner embodied that standard long before it was fashionable. Reiner didn't chase approval or flex authority. He earned it quietly through consistency and preparation. That example stuck with Costner, especially during moments when the industry tested his patience and resolve. Now, looking back with no bitterness and no rush, Costner sees those lessons as anchors. They kept him grounded when things got loud and steady when things got uncertain. At 70, Costner isn't closing the book, he's just reading it differently, with sharper eyes, fewer illusions, and deeper appreciation for the people that mattered.
And if there's one truth he's comfortable standing on now, is this: the people who shape you the most aren't always the ones in the spotlight. They're the ones who show you how to stand tall without making noise. At this point, Costner isn't speaking as a movie star. He's speaking as someone who's lived through the full cycle of the industry. The hype, the backlash, the reinvention, and the quiet stretches where the work mattered more than the noise. He admits that Hollywood can chew people up when ego runs the show. Careers flare fast and burn out just as quickly when respect and preparation get replaced by shortcuts and pressure. That's why Costner keeps circling back to the same lesson. The people who last aren't always the most aggressive or the most visible. They're the ones who treat the craft seriously, and the people around them even better. He says Rob Reiner understood that instinctively, not as a strategy, but as a way of working and living. That approach, Costner believes, is why Reiner's reputation still carries weight decades later. Costner also reflects on how much easier it is to see these truths now. When you're younger, you're chasing momentum. When you're older, you're protecting meaning. At 70, Costner feels no urge to compete with anyone but himself. He's focused on doing work that feels right and walking away from anything that doesn't align with his values. And in that calm, grounded place, he makes one last thing clear. Longevity isn't luck. It's the result of discipline, respect, and learning from the right people at the right time. They were the steady ones, Costner says, and in his view, Rob Reiner fits that category perfectly. Reiner didn't chase trends or hype. He trusted story, character, timing, and most of all, people. Costner makes it clear this isn't nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It's a reminder of what actually lasts in an industry that never stops shifting. Rob's legacy isn't just the films, Costner says. It's the way he treated people while making them. At this point in his life, Costner says that lesson matters more than box office numbers or awards. When the lights go down and the years go by, he adds, what you remember is how you were treated and who treated you right. By finally speaking up about Rob Reiner, Kevin Costner isn't just handing out praise, he's offering perspective shaped by time. At 70, he's not simply looking backward, he's drawing a sharp line between success and substance, reminding audiences that the greatest figures in Hollywood are defined not only by what they create, but by how they create it. The conversation naturally shifts to legacy, and Costner doesn't hold back. He says Reiner helped redefine what real success in Hollywood looks like. You didn't have to be flashy to be great. You could build work that lasts, stories people return to years later and still feel something from. Longevity has always mattered more to Costner than momentary fame. He credits filmmakers like Reiner for setting that standard early, making films that trusted audiences to think and feel. That kind of respect, Costner says, always finds its way back over time. If you found this story powerful, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment your thoughts below. Let us know what legacy really means to you.